This is it. Our Spider-Man No Way Home review and reaction is starting right now. Guys, welcome back to the Jersey Comic Crew. Chris and Rob here, and this is the video we've all been waiting for. Us to record, you guys to watch it. We're talking Spider-Man No Way Home. Full spoilers ahead. If you have not seen this movie, please do yourself a favor. Go see it. Don't pay crazy amounts of money, but go see it. Get a ticket somehow. See this movie, and then come back. Rob, ridiculousness happened in this movie. So many things I want to get to. But first, I want to know your initial reaction because I want to see if you cried as many times as I did.
My initial reaction, I was emotionally spent after watching this movie.
I knew it.
This by far for me, not easily, but this is definitely the best Spider-Man movie. Period. Even this beats out Into the Spider-Verse, which was my number one. I never thought it would be beat. Yeah, I never thought that movie would be beat. This was beat. Pure emotionally driven, like seeing this Peter Parker Tom Holland arc get to this level. It was magnificent. All the different story beats, the emotional weight on everything. I'm trying to do a little spoiler-free version of this for you guys, just in case some of you stragglers here. But like, I've cried so many times. My audience was fantastic, and I love going to these event movies opening weekend because you get the crazy kind of people like me who are gonna scream and like have those big reactions.
You get the fans.
You get the energy in the stadium, or I mean, in the movie theater, right? I was so emotionally charged at the end of the movie. Like, I drove home with my brother, and I'm like, instead of like spouting theories or like what this means, I was just I can't. I have nothing to say. I'm quiet. I'm just soaking it in. Like, I kept saying that because I wanted to talk. I couldn't say anything of substance. I was like, I'm speechless. I'm speechless. He's like, you told me you're speechless 25 times. And I'm like, I can't believe it. But for me, like I said, it was speechless. Chris, your initial thoughts before we get into the high moments of all the crazy stuff.
Yeah, I loved it too. I mean, what is there not to love? And I think what I've been trying to figure out this past, couple hours since we just saw it Thursday night, and which hopefully, the audience and you, Rob, can help me out with is,
what's up?
I've seen so many Spider-Man movies. I love them from the Tobey movies all the way down to the Tom Holland movies. I'm trying to figure out why I like this movie different than others based on the fact that the storyline itself isn't that complicated.
Very straightforward,
It's almost, and it's also predictable to a sense. Like, and a lot of times when you watch films, if you can predict a lot of what's going to happen and you're correct, it kind of dilutes the, initial experience. This was not the case for me, where I saw this movie. I had a lot of predictions that were correct. I was able to I could tell where the story beats were going. The story isn't that complicated, right?
No.
But I still ended up being like, I love it. Like, I enjoyed myself. It is one of the most fun movies, even though also tragic at the same time. But it also, maybe it's just the nostalgia bomb that just overwhelmed me.
I understand a straightforward plot might not be great for a movie making sometimes, right? Because it's like, oh, this is it. But it's one of those things, like, if you have a simple formula, you have to execute it perfectly for it to work, right? Yeah. Example, watching a cooking show, right? Here, it's weird, right? The ones that take the bigger risk doing these weird things, you have more wiggle room, right? Because it's like, oh, you could do this kind of thing. Or if you're drawing something of your own mind and creation, you have more wiggle room. But if you're doing a realistic portrait, you have to nail it. I think what Marvel did, aside from the nostalgia, they nailed that simple plot so well that's why you enjoyed it. The simple plot, straightforward, was everything that you wanted. It didn't deviate. It was great, good quality content. Plus the mix with all the nostalgia woven into there seamlessly, very similar to episode 5 of Hawkeye, where you have Yelena's character arc into the Hawkeye show, seamlessly woven in and enhanced the story. That's what happened here. It took a simple plot, enhanced it with the nostalgia bomb and all this amazingness, and I think that's why we're loving everything. The other thing I wanted to talk about is the emotional stakes in this movie, right? This movie took you on an emotional roller coaster. Aside, the nostalgia roller coaster is there during the whole time. But just like seeing Peter Parker dealing with things, right? Realizing he's caused his friends to not get into MIT. He can't get into MIT because he's Spider-Man. He goes to Doctor Strange. He's like, hey, I got to fix this. Aunt May dying. That's his Uncle Ben moment. And him being destroyed on the inside.
Tears number 1 if you're counting at home.
And then Green Goblin's there, and he wants to kill Green Goblin. And then, again, you feel that rage. You want him to do it, but you know he can't because he's Spider-Man. Tobey comes in, gets stabbed, stops him. Again, the emotion right there. And at the end, where he's like, I'm not going to go to MJ's life because, like, she got into MIT. this is what's good for her. And then, like, right when he's about to, when he's like, you know what, maybe not, maybe I'm gonna be selfish and tell her, he sees the band-aid on her forehead, like, hey, I can't do this. I have to do the selfless thing and cut her out of my life and essentially be miserable. And that's kind of the Peter Parker way. And I think all that emotions of just a movie is gonna take you so far. And the fact that you know Spider-Man as a character, Chris, because you read it and so have you guys, that's even the ante for a lot of us. So that's why I think this movie hits home so hard.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. You flip the web right on the building, man.
I'm good.
You know, Spider-Man is my favorite Marvel character. He has been ever since I was a kid. I have hundreds, if not thousands, of Spider-Man comics. And this movie got something that we were just talking about, right? The emotion of this story perfectly right. And it's something we call the Parker luck.
Yes.
It is this kind of, it's a natural progression of storytelling within Spider-Man and Peter Parker that eventually something terrible is going to happen and he's kind of going to blame himself, but because of who he is as a person, he overcomes it. And that was translated into this movie seamlessly in multiple forms. And that was where all the crying stuff. So, like, you know, besides the emotion of seeing Toby and Andrew come back, and granted, I am more of a Toby fan than Andrew fan, but I thought the times where I was overly emotional was with the Andrew stuff, where he catches MJ and saves MJ when he couldn't save Gwen, and he starts tearing up because he actually, like, he feels like he redeemed himself. I was a mess.
I felt like he felt redeemed himself. I was like, yeah, you saved the girl. Like, I was afraid that she was gonna die after MA died. I'm like, anything's happening, right? Saving her was great. The interplay with all the spiders. Let's talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
A lot of fun, right? Seeing all of them, seeing Toby there, seeing Andrew there, them talking to each other, especially the Statue of Liberty scene. How great was that? They're like, you know, I'm not cool. You guys have fought aliens. He's like, stop that, stop that. You're amazing, right? And like, I love it. It was so
I love
cute.
that Andrew's like the weird one.
Yes.
And then Toby's like the older one who's like, listen, I've done all this. It doesn't matter. Like, you're a Spider-Man. And then like, you know, you have Tom Holland there who's like a foot shorter too.
Yes.
And he's just like, man, you guys are really he's like, wait, you guys don't know Avengers? He's like an Avenger. He's
like, oh my God, you know the Avengers? That's great. What is that? And I'm like, that's such a dad thing. Like, he's like, I'm supportive. I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm a supportive dad.
I also love the line where, like, Andrew's like, so are you gonna, like, do you have a suit, or are you just gonna save the world as looking like a youth pastor?
Like a sexy
or what
youth
are we
pastor.
doing? It was great, and obviously seeing them all swing into action was a huge moment. Seeing the suit, I'll tell you another thing that, like, got me, and it's a part of this, which I didn't think that would get me. I have such a tie to those Toby movies because those are Spider-Man movies like our generation grew up with. This movie was made for people in our age bracket, right? We grew up with those movies and the Andrew Garfield movies. We were like kind of in late high school, college area.
Yeah.
But when he saves Sandman, that little moment where he saves Sandman inside of the dome of the Statue of Liberty, a guy who never really wanted to be a villain, a guy who just wanted to get back to his kid, and you had that moment of just kind of calm. And then that Toby theme started playing.
I noticed that too. That was good.
That music, I didn't realize was going to hit me right through the chest. I was a mess.
I mean, you also have the emotional aspect of Sandman and that Peter, because he was like, hey, I'm going to help you, Peter, because he wasn't a bad guy at the end, right? We talked about this. Maybe he was going to help, and he kind of did and kind of didn't. He just wanted to go home. And having that interplay with the villains in them was great. Moving on to the villains, I thought they were all fun, fantastic. Seeing Doc Ock turn good because they fixed him. Norman playing everybody. Electro wanting more power. Like, all these characters in the universe, I think, worked very well. I thought it was quite enjoyable. And like I was saying before, it's like a final goodbye to these characters, because I don't think we're going to get these actors and in these characters in the MCU. If they do, they would recast them, my opinion, right? I don't really see them doing anything. It was just great to have my final goodbye to all these characters that, like, I love so much.
I thought Norman Osborn was everything I wanted and more. I was legitimately surprised at how much room they just gave Willem Dafoe to do his thing.
Oh, yeah.
He was my favorite villain in the originals. Like, I knew, obviously, Norman, I knew the whole time it was going to, like, I was waiting for the mind
of
to
course,
back.
Of course.
But there's that one scene where he's fighting Peter in Happy's, like, condominium.
Yeah.
And Peter is wailing on his face and his face doesn't change. Like, it's just like that goblin smile. I thought one of the best kind of choices for this film with him was kind of taking away the mask and letting his face do the talking, do the acting for the character, and he's throwing like Peter through floors. Like, we're showing the real strength of this like goblin serum and the insanity that goes on with it.
Because Peter's never really fought anybody like this before. Everybody's kind of had like a rhyme or a reason, and this guy's insane and evil and strong. He doesn't know how to deal with this.
And that's what I loved, like taking an element that we're familiar with, right, and kind of just throwing it into a new aspect, which they did so well with the villains. Same thing with Electro.
Yeah.
Like, Electro went from this kind of geeky nerd with like a comb over bad hair and like some nobody, and then like you see now like Jamie Foxx, this ripped, like,
he's a cool sexy villain. He was like, yeah, I want all this power.
Devil, and is like in this world where you have arc reactors and different types of energy, and he's like, oh, I feel good here, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's a different way of thinking about it, and I just loved how they incorporated it. I love that Ock like got his chip fixed, and just that moment where he's like, I could think clearly. I forgot what that felt like. Like, that's where it's like, oh, that's why.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, all these reasons, these little reasons are that they're giving you within this to have that. And then obviously the final battle and just was fantastic to see all of them together.
The last thing we want to talk about here is Doctor Strange's role in this movie, which, by the way, Doctor Strange interacting with Peter Parker was a lot of fun. It was really great. Seeing him get into the mirror dimension and Peter Parker using math to figure out, oh, it's a Fibonacci sequence. I could just do all this and stop Doctor Strange, use math to beat him. Thought it was great because that's what Peter Parker would do.
Yep.
And then again, Peter Parker's like, hey, you can't just send these people back to kill them. Like, I have to try to save them. Again, showing the Parker thing. But Doctor Strange's role in this movie was limited, but it was a great vehicle to move the story forward. And it didn't really feel like he was wasted, right? It made sense. Like, oh, Peter tricked him. They have a little bit amount of time before the dad comes back and stops everything. He comes back mid-fight, helps fix the ending of the movie. I enjoyed Doctor Strange's part. I'm worried that some people may have been a little upset that it wasn't more pronounced, if that makes sense.
Really? I'm not. I
don't think so, but I feel, I don't, we're comic book fans. I feel like some people are like, oh, I wanted Doctor Strange in the whole time, fighting with everybody, blah, blah, blah. I don't know.
Tough. It's a SpiderMan movie. It goes along with, we were talking about this all the time, was we still have to make sure that this is a Tom Holland SpiderMan movie.
Yeah.
And I thought they did a fantastic job with pacing as far as,
very good.
we have Strange early, we have Strange in like Act 2, and then Act 3 are the spiders, right? Like, Daredevil comes in for that quick shot in Matt Murdock. And then also, got to mention this, he catches the brick thrown into the... How great
was that?
Whoa, what? The boss move?
The same reaction speed as Spider-Man. They were like this, and everybody's like...
Unreal.
What? How?
Unreal.
What? And I was
He's like, I'm a really good lawyer.
I started screaming.
I was like... but you have like these moments, right? Strange had his moment where, he pulls Peter out before Goblin can attack, and, they had that discussion. I thought the moral dilemma between both of them, both being good guys, was a great kind of avenue to go, right? Because most of the time the moral dilemma is between good and bad. The fact that it's two heroes who went through the same kind of stuff, and then Peter locks him away for a while, thought it was great. And especially when he comes back and they're like, we could have used you. Where the hell were you?
They were yelling at him. He's like, no, I did this. This would have happened if he did this.
He's like, no, it's my fault. After that awkward conversation about the organic webbing out of Toby's arms. Does it come out of anywhere else? What? No. So, like, I thought it was just, like I said, a nice pace. I thought Strange's part in this was well done. Again, a little simplistic, right? Where it's like, we were kind of asking the question, why did he just agree to do this?
Yeah, we thought it was Mephisto or craziness, and
the Mephisto thing was obviously wrong. Sorry guys, I'm still in the Mephisto train.
Yeah.
But it's something where like he had that line where he's like, wait, you didn't call to contest your application? Yeah. I didn't know I could do that. What do you mean? And like, so they kind of took it away with like a comedy thing, but I don't know if it fully explained the full transparency of like, why he's helping him, besides like, they're both heroes, they're both kind of like friends.
I think at the bottom line is because they save half the universe together, and Doctor Strange has used this spell before to forget a party. He's like, what, this could work, and it was all plausible. Every definition and excuse and reason they gave for things that happened in this movie was plausible in this universe, and we were along for the ride. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Again, guys, it was so much fun watching this movie. The next big question, what's the future of Spider-Man? Those after credit scenes. Give us a little bit of time. Those videos are going to come out. We want to just enjoy the ride before we start freaking out about what's going next. Stay tuned to the channel. Those videos are coming out. But guys, let us know down in the comments below. What do you think of this movie? Give us your spoiler-filled review, your spoiler-free review, your thoughts down in the comments below.
And guys, thank you so much for watching. Give us a thumbs up, like. It really helps the channel out a lot. If you're new, subscribe and turn on those notifications. You don't want to miss any more of our Spider-Man talk. Like Rob said, we have a bunch more videos planned about Spider-Man No Way Home. We are not done with this yet. And if you missed anything, make sure you check it out on the channel. It's everywhere. And as always, I'm Chris Heller. That's Rob Moran. We're the Jersey Comic Crew, and we'll see you next time.